On the other end of that, there are many people out there right now who believe they are entitled to success. If you believe you are entitled to success, you most likely aren't going to do the work it takes to achieve that success, and then you're probably going to convince yourself you didn't want it anyway.
It starts with finding out where someone is on that grid. Some people have inflated self-worth and super low self-belief, but they've told themselves a story they have self-belief, when in reality, it's actually self-worth.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode. It was episode number 1364. Self-care isn't selfish, a simple title, but hopefully a valuable episode. Today, for episode number 1365, the two most important things to know about yourself. So I said in the outro of the last episode, this was going to be the most valuable episode ever of all time.
Yeah. It's a bold statement.
I was talking a lot of trash.
Sometimes you talk a lot of shit.
Sometimes I do. I'm hoping it will be. And here's why. Here's why I said that. Yes, I was joking, but that is my goal, obviously. Somebody asked me the other day, is there anything we didn't talk about today on the podcast? So I was a guest that you want to talk about. Like, what's on your heart? What are you learning about? What breakthroughs have you been having? And I said, at the end of the day, it's a great question. Mm-hmm. The two reasons people do not succeed, whatever success means to you. People do not find fulfillment, whatever fulfillment means to you. People do not have the relationship they want. Really, the two reasons people don't have the life that they want. It's either inaccurate self-belief or inaccurate self-worth. And I said, I know that's a blanket statement and I know that's a bold statement, but think of it this way. A lot of the things that we do or don't do are based on our belief. A lot of the things that we do or don't do are based on our worth. And if you're not aware of those two things, you might not try something you need to try because you're afraid you're going to fail, or you think you should already be successful so you don't need to try. This was my analogy for it. There are many people out there right now who have a really big goal, a really personal goal, a really important goal to them, but they don't believe it's possible. And if they don't believe it's possible, it is not possible unless they get lucky to find somebody who believes in them that'll take them with them, unless they hire a coach. But if you don't believe in yourself, you probably won't. Unless a series of events outside of your control happens, you're probably not going to accomplish that goal if you don't believe in it. That's person one. Person two has a very, very, very high level of self-belief. I used to think that was a really good thing. And I think it has its benefits, of course. But oftentimes, those people don't think they need to take action because, in a way, and you can speak to this at a deeper level after my epic monologue, in a way, you think you can accomplish anything, so you don't really have to try. Like, you can accomplish anything. You have so much belief. You're not going to go try a bunch of different stuff. You're probably going to say, well, I could do that if I wanted to. I'm just not going to do it. Then if we think from the frame of self-worth, there are many people out there right now that do not think that they deserve success. They're not worthy of success. Every time they grow, they leave somebody behind, so they're holding themselves back because they're afraid to be alone. On the other end of that, there are many people out there right now who believe they are entitled to success. If you believe you are entitled to success, you most likely aren't going to do the work it takes to achieve that success, and then you're probably going to convince yourself you didn't want it anyway. And if you think of any of those four positions, none of those are really, really, really a power place. It's very hard to win from any of those one places. Mm-hmm. And until you're aware of that, and then you realize, okay, at the end of the day, when it comes to self-belief, whether you're high or low, action is the cure-all, right? I need to tell myself I can run a mile. Alan, and I do it and I believe in myself. Alan says I'm going to run 26.2 miles and then gets humbled when he can't. Perfect. And he says, I need that humility. I need that belief. Cool. Action is the cure-all, brings you closer to 5. When it comes to self-worth, it's keeping small promises to yourself, right? If you don't believe in yourself, it's keeping small promises to yourself, building self-trust, setting small boundaries, visiting your past, all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. When you have very high self-worth, it's getting humbled. It's really, it's getting humbled to like, why do you think you deserve the level of success we have again? Like, what have you You've never podcasted, you've never spoken, you've never coached, you don't have a business, you haven't done this for the last 6 years. Like, why do you believe you're entitled to that? Mm-hmm. You need humility, but that comes through action too. So and you've coached way more people than I, are you able to connect self-belief and self-worth? I guess, what level are you able to connect self-belief and self-worth to each human you've coached?
So there's the article that I'm going to share at the end of this episode has its cover photo as a quadrant, 4 quadrants, and it really articulates what Kevin just opened with, which is on the bottom left quadrant is 0, 0. So the y-axis is 0 to 10, self-belief. The x-axis is 0 to 10, self-worth. So the bottom left is 0, 0, meaning no self-belief and no self-worth. The upper right is 10, 10, which is 10 out of 10 self-belief, 10 out of 10 self-worth, and everything in between. I am able to, when I coach someone, understand where they are inaccurate. That is my goal with coaching. And I'm far better at helping people build belief and build self-worth than level setting people. In order to get to the next level, there's certain people that need to be level set. And what is a good example of that? All right, there's a person in our life who thinks that she's on your level with a lot of things. If she continues to believe that inaccurately, she's going to make decisions that you're making without understanding the implications of that. And so pretty much coaching, what it really is getting people to see themselves more accurately. And then getting them to see the path more accurately, and then getting them to re-see themselves accurately once they get these new results. So I've told you, I'll give you an example. So before Kevin went to, was it Podfest? Where did you speak? Podfest?
Podfest, yeah.
Podfest. Okay, so before you went to Podfest, you were like concerned. You're like, well, I'm the podcast guy in a room of non-podcasters, but am I going to be able to be the podcast guy in a room of podcasters? And I was like, Kev, you're going to know more than everyone in that room. And I know that that sounds arrogant. What I really am saying underneath that is you and I have studied this industry and podcasting every day for 6 years pretty drastically, like to a sufferable extent, okay? No one else is doing that, and I know that. Not no one, but almost no one. And so for me, it's going to be, I knew you'd go there and you'd realize, holy crap, not to mention there's more data that I haven't shared. 44 other podcasts that we produce. You've set up other people's studios. You set up our studio. You did audio production. You've done all of the teaser clips, you name it. So how many other people have podcast production agencies? Not right? Many. Most people don't have a podcast, never mind a podcast production agency. And most people are also fairly new. And when you look at the statistics, the majority of podcasters are newbies. That's okay, right? Very few people make it to 6 years. All right, so I'm gathering all that data and then drawing a conclusion. And the conclusion I draw is, Kev, you're going to go there and realize that you're leagues ahead of almost everyone, which is exactly what happened. So all I had to do was identify, oh, okay, his belief is lower than it should be, and his worth is lower than it should be. So let me tell him in advance that he's inaccurate. Then he'll go get data that proves that I was right about the truth, and then you'll get closer to accurate faster. That's really what coaching is in a nutshell. Now, here's the thing. If coaching is nothing less than helping people see more accurately about themselves, other people, and the world so that they can make good decisions within it and flourish within it. I think you just switched screens, by the way.
No, it just froze. Just keep going.
It did?
I'll get us back.
Okay. We've got some technical things happening, but that's okay because we fail right on forward. Kevin's coming back in. Kevin's leaving. Kevin's back. All right, what's happening? So coaching is this. I have to identify where you are, where you want to go, and then help you learn how to get there. It starts with finding out where someone is on that grid. Some people have inflated self-worth and super low self-belief, but they've told themselves a story they have self-belief, when in reality, it's actually self-worth. So I have someone I'm thinking of in my past who is extremely entitled and who has very high self-esteem. Super high, like honestly in some ways too high, because it's not built on anything real. It's built on being spoiled as a child, quite frankly. And so that's actually detrimental to her goals because she doesn't really think she has to work. She thinks she deserves stuff. And anyone who thinks they deserve stuff is going to have a rude awakening when life smacks you down. And life smacked me down with my car accident and other things. So all of us get humbled eventually. The problem is, are you doing this proactively? And so, yeah, to answer your question, it's very clear to me when I first meet someone where they're at on these 4 quadrants, and then I usually try to guide accordingly.
I had a client, or we had a client, but this was kind of before the production company was really what it is today in LPS. And I remember if you saw this person, you would assume they were unreasonably confident. If you're watching or listening to this, you would just be like, oh, that's a very confident human being. And this person was terrified of everything. Like, I don't want to look bad. What if, just so many things, so many what ifs. We can't drop this episode because I messed up. So many things. But the way they gave feedback to me was from an entitlement place of like, anytime I ever made a mistake with anything, it was like the end of the world and I was the worst. And it was just negative. It was a very negative relationship where what I used to have to do was I used to have to tear them down a little bit. Not tear down in a negative way, but kind of give them the truth of like, look, I know you're a podcaster, but trust me, I know way more than you do. Like, just listen to me. You pay me $700 a month for a reason. Just listen to me. Like that level of, but I'm not good at that. I don't like doing that. That feels weird. It feels dirty. Yeah. I don't like doing that. But
same.
Yeah.
But a great coach is able to do that with grace.
I know.
I don't know what's happening with our
I have no idea. I show no issues with StreamYard.
Same.
So I'm not sure what's going on.
Just for the listeners right now, I want to let everyone in behind the curtain. Kevin and I are on YouTube, and he's on the left typically, and I'm on the right. StreamYard keeps switching us. We keep switching sides.
Yeah, we're just gonna run it because that's that. Let me just make sure. Yeah, I'm still recording audio. Let's just run it.
Same. Let's just do it, man.
Good.
See how it goes. Good.
Now I'm on this side. That's okay. I'm gonna run it.
That's fine. I gotta move you though, so that it looks like I'm looking at the camera because technically I'm looking at Kevin.
No,
right
it's all good.
Camera.
It's all good.
Yeah.
It's very interesting how those clients are usually the ones who can't win. Yeah, this is weird. I'm trying to look over here. Those are the clients who never win because.
Well, let's do this real quick. I want to break this down and ask you questions. Yeah. All right. Self-belief.
Yeah.
Okay. You 6 years ago, you hadn't really studied humans a ton. You didn't know a lot of this. We didn't even know the difference between self-belief and self-worth. My girlfriend was the one who said, self-belief and self-worth are different, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, nope. And she's like, no, they're totally different. And now we've studied it. We've analyzed it. We've coached on it. Meetups.
A lot makes sense in retrospect now, for sure.
Yeah, I did not understand. So, Kev, okay, what does real self-belief actually look like? Like, what are some signs?
Certainty. I think self-belief is you are certain of yourself and you're certain of yourself in the uncertainty. It's almost like you can figure it out even if you don't know it. You're willing to try. You might look bad, but you're not really worried about it. Okay,
but people mask and act that way with ego.
Yes.
Even though they're not actually self-confident.
Here's
what are the tells?
I don't know if most people will recognize the tells. Because most people haven't seen as many people as we have.
Yeah.
One of the things is somebody talks a big game, but the second they get frazzled, they change their vibe, they change their mood, they change their energy. There's a lot of people who say like, I'm super confident and I'm a speaker and I'm an author, but the second something goes wrong, it's like, that's all a facade. That's not real. If going back to identity, your identity is stacked up of the things you've accomplished, not the person you are. That's not belief. That's not certainty. Yeah. That's not confidence. So it's almost like somebody who can stand on their own with themselves.
Yeah.
Regardless of everything else. That's belief. I think that's belief.
That's true abundance too, because take away the accolades and, you're still going to be able to climb, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next Level University and Kevin is exactly where you need to be if you're a podcaster. When I first started out just a few months ago, I had no clue on the direction I was going. I was getting hustled by another company that was giving me not even close to the value that Kevin and Next Level U was giving me. They literally changed the trajectory of my podcast, have helped me out tremendously. They understand the clients. I promise you, you will not go wrong with dealing with Kevin and Next Level U. I'll see you there.
Now, what about self-worth? I think we should do low self-belief, high self-belief. I think we should do low self-worth and high self-worth. And that way everyone can self-identify. So low self-belief looks like blank.
Low self-belief looks like not setting goals because you don't believe you can achieve them. Saying, I could never do that because sitting back, being the person who sits back in the corner, never raises their hand. Yeah, you're very unsure of yourself and you're afraid of everybody else knowing it.
Okay, fair. All right, high self-belief.
I feel like I should probably kick that to you.
Okay. The opposite of what you said. These people have large goals, but they actually align with them. They don't just say it. People with high self-belief, I have one person I coach, I'm thinking of her. She's amazing. She works harder behind the scenes than anyone else knows. Mm-hmm. She's almost so awesome that she has to pretend she's not when she's around other people because they're so insecure. And she's actually very humble. She's like a wonderful person. But behind the scenes, she's just amazing. It's almost like people with true high self-belief, it's hard for them to get along with other people because they're easily disliked. Because most people think they're arrogant. And what's ironic is that the people who are actually arrogant with inflated self-worth, it looks the same as high self-belief, but it's not the same. The people that I'm talking about are the people who are way more behind the scenes than other people can tell. And they're usually extremely well educated. They work really hard. They learn a lot. They are very humble, and they usually have coaches and mentors and therapists. They usually are well read.
This is like real self-belief.
Real self-belief, yeah.
Not arrogance.
And they usually have a reluctance to share their real goals. If you ever meet someone who you ask what their goals are and they're afraid to tell you, that's someone with real self-belief. The people who bark the goals like they can't wait to tell you, they don't have real self-belief. The people who I coach who have a lot of self-belief, and there's no exception to this rule, Kev, that I've found, they don't want to tell you their goals. It's almost like you have to hey, no, I know. But
this might sound crazy, but...
This might sound crazy, but...
Yeah,
and I'm it's not going to sound crazy to me. But it does sound crazy to most people, so I understand. And they're reluctant to share it because they've been very hurt in the past from sharing their goals. And they learn that very young because kids can be very cruel. Okay, low self-worth. What does that look like?
I think you and I both struggled with this. Not setting boundaries... assuming other people's time is more valuable than your own, people pleasing, putting other people ahead of you to a drastic, detrimental level, not feeling like you deserve success, not feeling like you deserve love, not feeling like you deserve an aligned relationship. You just don't feel valuable.
Tolerating being disrespected.
Yeah, that.
You constantly tolerate disrespect. Yeah.
You might be afraid of success because you don't feel like you deserve it, or you're not deserving of.
Yep.
And then high is the
usually
polar
get bullied.
Opposite.
You're usually someone, if you have low self-worth, you usually attract bullies.
Yeah.
Because bullies find people who tolerate their crap.
Well, I said that to somebody recently. I said they said, well, I just attract negative people. And I said, no. Everybody has the opportunity to attract negative people. You just don't filter them out. Yeah, that's a self-worth thing. You don't filter them. They should get filtered out. Mm-hmm. It's not just that you're attracting them. It's your filter isn't recognizing or determining, I deserve better than this. Mm-hmm. And then that's why the cycle perpetuates. It's unfortunately, we have had the behind the scenes look into so many of the amazing community members. And I say unfortunately because we realize how many of them have been just taken advantage of or mistreated. And here's what happens. Somebody they trust mistreats them. That immediately hurts their self-worth. Wow, I'm not worthy of the love that I was promised because it was all fake. That throws off what quote-unquote normal is. And the next time somebody comes along, you're not going to recognize, oh, I deserve way more than this person is even offering me. They end up hurting you, and then the cycle just perpetuates. Here's the interesting thing. On the opposite end of that, super high delusional self-worth, people stay single forever because they assume or they think they deserve to attract somebody amazing, even though they haven't worked on themselves. They want to attract someone or something far greater than the effort that they have put in.
On working on themselves or working toward that goal.
Yeah.
It's almost like they believe, and that's the thing that's alarming about this, and in my framework in the blog, you'll see that these are what I call the villains, quote unquote, the inflated self-worth people. And we've all got that inside of us at times. And I remember a time in my life when I was spoiled for sure. And before my stepdad left and we didn't have any money, and that's a whole story I won't get into. But the point is that it's entitlement. It's like, I'm awesome. Okay, a good example, someone who was an all-star football player in high school, and they still have that same identity, even though they haven't done anything of real merit since then. Have you ever met one of those high school athletes that still like thinks they're the man? Right?
For a good reference, if you've ever seen Napoleon Dynamite, Uncle Rico, I could throw a pigskin clear of those mountains. Have you ever seen Napoleon Dynamite?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, that was a classic. Uncle Rico. Look up Uncle Rico.
But those people unconsciously believe they are worthy beyond others, and they often are the ones who mistreat. So people with low self-worth are finding people with inflated self-worth. People with high self-belief are actually finding people with low self-belief who are usually faking self-belief through self-worth. So it gets, my article goes deeper into all this, my blog, I should say, Next Level blog. But it's very important that everyone can identify where you are now, and you're attracting the opposite most likely. It's weird. You're attracting similar in certain circles, and then you're also attracting the opposite, usually intimately. And because there's that whole opposites attract thing, but I'm still trying to figure that out because like birds of a feather flock together. So it's kind of both simultaneously, which is a whole nother rabbit hole. But I do know that the community we have tends to be low self-belief, low self-worth, which is a very dangerous place to be. And that's why we focus so much on how to build self-belief and how to build self-worth, because when you do that, you aren't going to tolerate being bullied or disrespected. No. You're going to actually value yourself, and you're going to have goals, and you're going to be like, screw you. Like, I'm out. Like, no. And I think that's really empowering.
I had, last thing I'll say before we get off here. I did a podcast breakthrough session recently, and I always get super nervous about the answer I got. So I have a questionnaire, just asking questions like, why'd you start? Do you have a show? Like, just tell me a little bit about yourself just so I can understand what we're going to talk about. And under it, it's what's your biggest struggle right now? And this person said, nothing, crushing it, I love it. And immediately it's like, my issue or quote unquote issue, my fear is that this person's going to have delusionally high self-worth. They're going to think that this is just going to work out because that's just their mind. You know, I know it's going to work out when it's supposed to, and I know the timing's going to be right, and I know I'm going to end up where I'm supposed to. And I literally on the call said, like, what do you want me to teach you? Because I said transparently, I'm just not certain where to go, because if you're not struggling with anything, I don't know where to deliver. And we had a really good conversation. It was really, really, really good. But I said, what do you want to happen? And she said, well, I just want to like stay aligned. And I said, no, I understand, but like, what is the result you want? Well, and she said, I don't have a result in mind.
Well, then aligned is not aligned, because aligned presupposes a future end state.
Yes.
Right? If you have a goal, you can align with the goal.
Yeah. It's a requirement. Alignment.
It's a requirement for alignment. That's
from
like a
where
GPS
you are to,
that doesn't have
exactly,
a destination.
Exactly.
Yeah.
From where you are to where you want to get to. Alignment. When you go and get your car aligned, what does that mean? It means your tires are facing the right way. Yeah. They're aligned. They're in alignment.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is the right way, meaning forward. Forward progress.
But
last question, because I know we got to jump. Go ahead.
let me I just want to wrap that up. The point in sharing that was this person most likely won't win because what?
It took everything in me not to say wrap it up.
This person's going to struggle to win with their podcast because they assume they're going to. They assume they deserve to based on the fact that they say, well, it's going to happen when it's supposed to. It's a very, very dangerous place to be. They don't have a strategy. Now, they humbly said, I really need strategy. I was like, okay, cool, awesome. Thank you so much for giving me that understanding because I just assumed you're just going to keep doing what you're doing and you think it's going to...
But strategy toward what? Because if you don't have a goal, there is no recipe. Right?
Yeah, more impact, I guess.
That's like saying I'm going to go cook something, but it's like, okay, well, what's the recipe? It's like, I have no idea. What are you cooking? Yeah. Are you cooking turkey, chicken, lamb?
The only goal in that story is just that if you resonate with that, there is a potential that you're over with self-worth. Yep. That's a good example of that. You wanted to say something before we went?
No. I had another question, but I can't see the time. What time are we at?
Yeah, it's 5:46. You have a call at 6.
Okay.
But we're already 32 minutes in, so we should probably wrap it up.
Yeah, we got to. That's it. Then identify where you're at, self-belief and self-worth, and try to assess yourself as accurately as possible, and then focus on building those two things. Yeah. But building them on real merit, not delusion. And I think that if you think accurately about yourself, okay, Tucker and Tariel, real quick, my dog and my cat. My cat is capable of jumping like 7 feet. It's wild. Like she can jump all over the place. Tucker, if he thinks he can do that too, he's gonna get hurt. And it's not good for him to believe that he can do the same thing she can. And it's also not good for him to think he's just as deserving of whatever's up on the top shelf, because it's inaccurate. He's not the same, and he shouldn't treat himself the same. That doesn't mean he's less worthy of life. It just means he's less worthy of the cookies on the top shelf in this analogy. And that's okay, because his capabilities are lower. So just accuracy, I think, is the most important thing. And you can always build it. So if you do have low self-belief or low self-worth, that's okay. You're not lost. You're not done. You can grow them. You can grow them over time.
Well, and the reason we get so fired up about an episode like this, we created something called the Drive to 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And we didn't know what we were doing, but
we didn't know what we were doing. But now it makes so much sense. It's like, no, this is like a real thing that we've seen based on our experience first. Like I was very low on self-worth and self-belief. Alan was very high on self-belief, low on self-worth. Mm-hmm. That we just recognize that in ourselves. And now I can't really look at somebody without seeing that. Because I know this. When I said this is the most valuable episode you'll ever hear, hopefully it is. But I think it could be the most powerful one, because if you have a breakthrough of, oh my God, my whole life I've convinced myself that I have high self-worth, but it's actually high self-belief, or vice versa. Mm-hmm. Any of that. If this is an unlock, that means we did our job.
Last thing I promise. Yeah. If you see someone who appears super confident, you think they have high self-belief, start asking yourself, oh my God, is that inflated self-worth? That's very common. That's very, very common. You used to think self-worth and self-belief were the same, and a lot of the people you thought had a ton of self-belief, you now realize in hindsight it was just inflated self-worth. Yeah. And that was an unlock for me and for you, and I just want to share that with our listeners.
I appreciate it. Cool. July 6th is our next meetup. So when you learn to drive, you probably get told a couple things, like the 3 most important things you should know. This is where you put the gas in. This is how you check your oil. Make sure you put your seatbelt on. Those are probably the 3 most important things. We don't really learn that about a lot of other stuff. We don't really learn that about money. We don't really learn that about relationships. So July 6th, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, our next monthly meetup, 3 things everyone should know about their intimate partner. If you want a successful relationship, you have to be aware of your partner's traumas, triggers, love languages, communication styles, all that. So we will jam on that. Again, it is completely behind the scenes. It is totally private. You do not have to participate. You can if you want. You can bring questions. It's a good time. Join us.
I mentioned it several times already. The blog is bi-weekly. And if you're on our mailing list, if you're not on our mailing list, email me, alan@nextleveluniverse.com. I'll get you on there. Send me your email. Since you're emailing me, I'll have your email. But this blog post is going to be linked in the show notes. It is an article that I worked for months on, a blog that I worked for months on about self-belief and self-worth. So it's if this episode unlocked something for you, I can promise you that this blog will be another level of unlock of the same through line. Okay, so I hope you check it out. It's probably a 10 to 15 minute read. And let me know what you think.
So full disclosure, for the next episode, I was planning on doing overly abundant versus overly scarce, but we talked a lot. I mean, it's kind of too connected to this. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what we're going to do yet for the next episode.
Fair.
We're going to do it on the fly, make a change. I want to make sure the next one's valuable, and I don't want to just be recycling kind of everything we talked about today. So I don't know what it's going to be. You'll see the title of the next episode in the morning, and you can choose whether to listen or not. We hope you will, because I'm sure it will be the second most valuable episode you've ever heard. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We'll talk to you all tomorrow.
Dial in your self-belief and self-worth. Next Level Nation.